I'm visiting this morning with Daryl Deedy. Daryl, you worked at the South Dakota State Penitentiary for quite a few years. I'm going to ask you just kind of give your background, general bio, and then experience with military and all those kinds of things. We're trying to answer questions for legislators, so go ahead and tell us about your background, like I say, both military and with the Department of Corrections.
Sure. I had just shy of 34 or 35 years at the state penitentiary. I started in 1983, August of 83. I started as a correctional officer, um, kind of a hard charger and a law and order kind of guy. I said, hey, this is where these guys have to be. And as the time went on and opportunities arose, um, my background was more of a trade skill. I was an electrician and went to the maintenance department. And from the maintenance department, I became the supervisor, became the assistant physical plant manager, and eventually the plant manager. And that the span of up to there was 20. Oh goodness, uh, well just shy of uh, 30 years from correctional officer through the maintenance program. 6 years as the officer, and the rest all in maintenance area, maintenance related.
During that same period of time, were you also in the military?
I was. Um, the entire time in 1976, I joined the South Dakota National Guard, and I rose from the ranks of an enlistee to command sergeant major. One of the areas that I had a responsibility for as a command sergeant major was the 235th MPs, which is, of course, the law enforcement side of the military. And I got to tour the Leavenworth prison as part of that duty. Uh, Also, as in the maintenance side of it, I've toured many prisons throughout the United States. Uh, uh, Texas, three different ones in Texas, Huntsville, and down in that area. I did Indiana, um, at the Indiana State Penitentiary. I've toured. Uh,
Were you over at Angola
I
as
was
well?
yes, I was at Angola, and that was kind of a very special situation out there. That was quite an eye-opening experience. Their industries, as well as the entire layout of that facility, and the way they ran that. Uh, that was a very uh, aha moment when I saw how many folks they had in ministry, and they were interspersed throughout the entire campus at a very lucrative, not lucrative, no, a very sought after position by those gentlemen that wanted to make a true difference.
So that's your background as far as training experience. Anything else you want to add to that part?
Yeah, a big piece of this, critical piece, was that I was also the industry's director for 5 years before I retired, and I oversaw all of the shops, as well as all the shops being the prison industries, where they did all the prison work, as well as the private industry, where the inmates made prevailing wages and paid all of their court costs, their costs of incarceration, were able to send money home to their families to assist, so they got to feel like real a real part of their family by helping them out.
So tell us, when we talk about the physical structure of the prison, how big is the prison when you consider all the aspects of the Sioux Falls facility?
Well, when you're looking at both the Hill and Jameson, um, you're well over a million square feet uh, under the roofs. Um,
A lot of the legislators are concerned that there isn't adequate space for programming. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, uh, I honestly believe that the programming, if you can reimagine the hill being the old prison, uh, that if you can reimagine that being totally emptied out, and the administration, the those that make the decisions, shot callers, can decide what goes back into that footprint. You have more room for programming than you can possibly imagine. The three stories to the old education building, uh, 2 stories in the old industries area, along with a brand new industrial building, metal building inside, which has, I gotta remember that. That's 100 by 120 square feet uh, of modern building. It's beautiful. Um, but yeah, you can reimagine shops that were remodeled or rebuilt into your programming needs.
There's always a concern about safety and security. And I know that's obviously something that you were focused on as you worked there as well. What can you tell legislators to reassure them that this place is safe and secure, or what do you have to do to make it safe and secure?
Well, I think it's probably a more simple idea than people realize, because when you put your classification and your programming together, you can dictate the level of security required. The level of security required turns around and relates to what is safe and what isn't safe. So when you have a low risk a reoffending inmate, or an inmate that is there to do their time, get their ticket punched, and go home, those are the folks that you can look at putting together in an area and not have near the supervision level required that the high risk inmates have.
So is it a fact that one size fits all? That's what we've heard about this new construction. It'll be maximum security, so one size fits all. Is that correct?
Absolutely not. When you're dealing with inmates, and remember that, yeah, they may all be rule breakers and law breakers, but they're all individual. And individuality, if you want to change behaviors, you have to go and change why or what made that person offend to begin with, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's lack of education, whether it's a religious opportunity. It's pretty well known that those that become closer to their higher power, their spirit, in my case, God, but when they become closer, they tend to let go of the bad things they've done. Okay, that's all good and well for the reshaping of the person inside, but when you put him outside and he can't support himself, what are you going to do? You need to make sure this person has the opportunity to learn a usable, well-paying skill once they're out.
And tell me, we visited before about recidivism being the major issue from my perspective anyway, but that's when you work through the system, all the way from a correctional officer to supervision of all the facility itself, then into Pheasant Land Industries. What did you see as far as the recidivism rate of those that you worked with in the industries?
Well, first, let me back up. Before I got to the industries, I was paying more attention to those that were coming back, as possible workers for me as when we had the inmates working in the maintenance area. When I got into the industry side, my focus had gone to say, wait a minute, how do we keep these guys from coming back in? I'll train new people that come in. I don't need to have these old ones come back and take their old jobs back. But if I can give these guys a skill set and keep them out of here, that's what my main goal was to better his or her opportunities. Because my industry's, covered the Sioux Falls as well as the women's prison in Pierre and the Mike Durfee. I had 2 shops down there as well.
The overall recidivism rate that they claim is somewhere around 44%, and that's just at a 3-year rate. If you go out to 5 years, it's probably more in the 60 range or higher. What was the recidivism rate for those people that you worked with in prison industries?
Granted, that was a few years back now, but as near as I can recall, it was between the 12 and 14, maybe 15%.
And when you say a few years back, well, when did you leave work at the penitentiary?
2018.
So it's only 7 years.
Right.
And in the period of time since you left, do you continue to visit with staff members and other staff members that have retired?
Absolutely.
What's the overall consensus about the corrections policy presently?
Well, there's a number of individuals that were very concerned. I know you don't do things the old way just because that's the way you've always done them.
Right.
But you do things the way they work. And when we were there, it worked. When I was there, we had very few assaults on the staff. If there were anything, it would be addressed immediately. And we didn't go into lockdowns every time something went south. We handled it immediately and kept a great temperature at the prison, meaning the inmates were not restless. They were not angry about something.
Going back to some of the questions about the physical plant itself, you mentioned to me a little while ago things that have been updated. Tell us about that in the past 20 years, for example.
Well, I can tell you from the time that I went over to maintenance, I can tell you that from 89 until present, we had gone in and we had changed out all of the count lighting so that there was more adequate lights to see inside each cell on the hill. The entire electrical distribution was upgraded. We did a complete water and sewer replacement. We did 3 brand new boilers at the power plant to maintain the hot water and heat and what have you.
So is that all the boilers, basically?
It's all, yes. Well, that's all the main boilers. I mean, we have a couple of smaller boilers for the kitchen to do a superheating, and we have, things like that. But those were even brand new.
And you mentioned before there was a steel building that was constructed.
Yeah, that was actually a proud moment for me when we got to build that steel building on the inside. It's in this case, it's a fairly new building. It's a wide open, 120. I think it's 120,000 square feet, 100 by 120, I believe. It's actually set up to accommodate 4 separate industries. That's what it was designed to do. Put 4 different industries inside that building, which means you can literally have four industries, or you can take and break it up and make it small, make fewer industries but bigger footprint.
Would you be willing to answer questions for other legislators as if they have anything they're concerned about here in the next several days before this vote takes place?
Well, absolutely. I understand. I realize that I'm giving you thumbnail sketches. I'm giving you probably more questions than answers. But if you want to go into this in depth, I can go a lot deeper on almost on all of these subjects. The physical structure of the old prison is to the best of my knowledge, absolutely sound. When I've been through every square inch of that prison, I have seen places that most people have never been in.
We've heard about some pipe down in the lower part of the pen that they've taken on this tour, and some pipe they have to step over, and things that don't look quite up to speed. Are those issues as far as the building itself?
Absolutely not. No, those are down in areas that when you see them cross that pipe, excuse me, you could literally take a different route to avoid that pipe. Granted, it's a longer route, and you're going to have to go back in through the prison and come back down a different side. But that is the most direct route. That's why they're using it now, or have been using it. That it's an old steam line. It's a critical part of the structure. So moving it would be quite difficult.
Is there any reason why you couldn't just build a ramp over it?
No, well, yes, there is. The headspace above it, you wouldn't have enough headspace. If you're walking up the ramp and back down the other side, you would have to duck to get.
How often is that lane of travel used?
That all depends on the circumstance of what it's being used for. That's how we used to bring the inmates from the special housing unit to their class 2 visits. That was generally that maintenance.
During the time that you were there, was there an issue with it other than stepping over it?
No, never.
Okay.
No.
Daryl, if there are any main points that you want to still address, take a look at what you've got. I know you had some notes there, but I think probably you've covered most things.
There are a couple things that I really would like you guys to know about, and that would be, I'm a big believer in when I started, I was one of those that thought, you know what, these guys deserve to be here, lock them up, get them to do their time, and get them out of here. As time went on, and I saw the difference that treating these guys like they were working on the outside, it changes their perspective. It changes their attitude. And when they get to work in jobs like Metalcraft Industries, for example, that was one of our private industries that we had. And I would love to expand on the private industries if people have any questions about that. But it's a program where the offenders are paid a prevailing wage. In other words, a living wage, a wage that enables them to pay their cost of incarceration, to pay the court-ordered obligations, and if they have, to be able to send money home for assistance to their family. And if those are all taken care of, they can have a savings account when they get out. So there's not a negative to that program.
So bottom line, would you say that the current building is adequate as it is with options for change and modification of floor plan?
Absolutely, and that's the one thing I want you to understand is that if you take the prison and empty it out and reimagine that, you can literally come back and determine anything and everything that goes back into it, and then you program around that and you enhance your safety and security. You put the right classification of offender there, and your security levels start to require less.
If there is changes made to structures around the state, such as Springfield or at Yankton or out in Rapid City, how long do you think it'd take to decommission the existing building? Because I think some people feel that, okay, old staff just want to retain that old building for old time's sake. That's seems to be kind of a myth that floats out there.
Well, I can understand. I can understand. I love the architecture. I can understand that. I can understand that. There's some sentiment to. Well, it's historical. It's the old territorial, but it's very functional. It's one of those places that it's more functional than it is sentimental.
So if at some point population dropped because you enhanced facilities elsewhere or modified programming, whatever it might be, how long do you think it'd take to decommission that building and tear it down? And
that's not going to happen overnight.
Has anybody ever thrown a number out about what that would cost?
I can't even imagine. I mean, I was there when they tore down the north wall, and that was labor intensive. I mean,
and that's just one wall.
And that's just a wall. Period. There's no infrastructure inside the wall that they had to worry about or had to deal with.
Yeah.
But to tear that whole quote hill facility down, I have to imagine you're looking at probably close 10 months, a year to literally raise it.
Is there any reason from your perspective why you'd tear that down, given the fact that it's not a building that's 144 years old. It's a building that's been updated every year since it was constructed.
There are so many improvements to that facility since the day I walked through the door and put the uniform on. The West Gate entrance, for example, that's something we fought for years. We couldn't get the funding to do that. It's done. The power, the water, the sewer, the gas lines, the boilers, all of that is updated. The sheer number of cameras that are in that facility, I went from 0 to over 400. So, I mean...
And maybe just another issue, when for the most of the time that you were there, was staffing adequate?
Generally, we were probably always hiring, but it was never well, you got to make up so many bodies because we don't have enough bodies. It was always just trying to top it out and finish. If somebody quit, we'd replace them. So there was retirements that were happening all the time, but turnover was not an issue.
And it seemed like an awful lot of people found that to be their lifelong career. Is that what you saw?
Hello, that was me.
Yeah.
I never believed it for a minute that was going to be where I was going to retire from, but I have to say, and I can say this without hesitation, that it was absolutely the best job I've ever had in my life. I loved it. I didn't go to work but maybe 5 days out of 35 years. I mean, and when I say that, it's tongue in cheek because I enjoyed it every single day that I was there.
Well, I sure appreciate the time you've put into thinking this through, and I know you've had a lot of conversations with other staff and current staff and past staff, and I look forward to some of these legislators having a chance to give you a call and visit with you about this further, and so thanks very much for being here today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.